Hi, in this video, I will be presenting the integrated learning product from the subject Communicative Competence in English, and the subject is graphene-based supercapacitors. First of all, we have to define what is a supercapacitor. They're devices that have the function of storing extremely large amounts of energy, and it's also a short-term energy source. We can divide it into three main parts to establish how it looks a supercapacitor. First of all, we have the electrodes that are kind of coating sheet able to retain electrical charges. The next part that it's in the middle is the electrolytes, the liquid that facilitates the circulation of electrical charges in the supercapacitor. And finally, we have the insulator. Is similar or alike to a sheet of filter paper. Prevents the two special surfaces from coming into contact, separating the charges. We have the positive and the negative charges. Now we have a video that will explain clearly how this supercapacitor works with real-life examples. To advance in the presentation, it is worth remembering that also in the energy power spectrum, supercapacitors take an intermediate place between batteries and the electric capacitors. They deliver higher power densities than the former and higher energy densities than the latter. And also supercapacitors are particularly useful in starting engines and are able to accumulate charge in regenerative energy braking. They also find applications that I will talk later in renewable energy and also the vehicles. Now to move on to the presentation, we have here some comparison between batteries, lithium batteries, and supercapacitors. We'll speak first one, and for batteries, high energy density, supercapacitors, low energy density, low power density, high power density, suitable for long-term applications, suitable for short-term applications, as I said before. Constant and slow energy release, quick bursts of energy, electrochemical energy storage and release, and electrostatic energy storage on electrode surfaces. And finally, affordable production price and expensive production price. That's a clearly disadvantage for supercapacitors. Next, we have the advantages. They have the supercapacitors a greater related surface area of graphene compared to carbon, and thanks to this related larger surface area, this material can store electrostatic charge more efficiently. And also, since graphene is just graphite, it's like obviously derived from carbon, it is an eco-friendly material. And otherwise, we have the disadvantages of graphene-based supercapacitors. They have strict synthesis conditions, and also recent studies, I think in 2018 and 2020, it showed the presence of less than 50% graphene in products and activated carbon, so it's actually less than what also the companies need for the graphene-based supercapacitors. Very expensive synthesis and characterization, and also that's a disadvantage also for companies. And stacking and bundling graphene sheets results in a smaller electrochemically active surface area and a lower energy density. This is like a specific example that could happen. So it's a clearly disadvantage also for graphene-based supercapacitors. For current applications, we have the electric vehicles, also the graphene phone, cellular electrostimulation, and uninterruptible power supplies. In the first case, with the electric vehicles, we have that, for example, in also, well, the supercapacitors store the energy by building up an electric field at the interface between the electrodes and the electrolyte. Also, they could improve like to decrease the use of the current vehicles, like the fuel. Well, the use the graphene foam is kind of 3D structure that is made of interconnected graphene sheets are essentially a macroscopic foam composed of the two-dimensional material graphene. It's also very useful with, I think, the cellular electrostimulation. Also, it refers to application of electrical current to the cells to alter the function or behavior, useful especially obviously in medicine. And here I have some images that will explain kind of. In the electric vehicles, we have the supercapacitor could help to improve the electric vehicles and also integrate them more in the future. So we can also decrease the CO2 emissions. The graphene foam, like I said, some graphene sheets that are interconnected. And we have also the cellular electrostimulation, helps with the medicine, with the tissue regeneration. And finally, we have the uninterrupted like sources of energy. It could be very useful, for example, in a hospital where they need really the energy to save lives. And also, for example, in a police station, it could be very useful. Now we have the applications in progress. I like kind of are already introduced to the society, but also they have these applications. Example, the supercapacitors. Example in I think it was Shanghai and Belgrado, China and Serbia, buses that run on supercapacitors, and also the scaling technology, sorry, is working in a graphene-based supercapacitor. Also, it has been introduced, I think, in 2024, but it's also in progress because they have to improve and better this use. Here we have the buses that were introduced in Shanghai and in the Granada station in Spain. This is train that I think will be a really good improvement in the transportation in that country. And that will be all for me on this presentation. Thank you for attention. Here are my references. I hope the topic was clearly explained, and also that you could have learned something about the supercapacitors, the graphene-based supercapacitors. Thank you for your attention and have a great day.